Okay, so we'll see if this works. I think I realized what the problem was. I've got my cans on just so I can hear myself. Alright. That was the problem. And the problem was I didn't have any microphone on the intro card. Alright, so, welcome. We are live. It took me a minute to figure out what was going on. Alright, so, let's see here. First off, I've got the reward block halving countdown. We're a little bit early. Well, actually, we're a little bit late. It's a little bit early. We got an hour and 4 minutes before the block having reward halving happens. And so I thought what I would do is I would just go ahead and put up some screens that we can look at while we talk about what's going on with this halving. First off, I want to thank the people who are currently watching. I've got all of 4 people watching. I am just completely surprised. I have, I think, 50 followers at this point. I really expected to do a live stream with nobody watching. So I'm really glad you guys showed up. Thank you very much. Hopefully this will be educational and more to the point, entertaining. I hope you get something out of it. So as we can see right now, and we're looking at the weekly chart, we are down. We're showing a red candle. Let's take a look at the daily just to see what's going on. Yeah, we're down today, and I'm not surprised. I really am not. As you can see, we've been down the last several days. You've heard me talk about Chinese candle charting, and I'm still in the process of learning exactly how it works. But these 3 candles here, they call them the 3 crows. And basically, it's a sign that the market is going down, or at least this asset is going down. So I won't be surprised to see a Bitcoin of around $7,000 when all is said and done. Because let's face it, we're going to see this happen. This is, as I said in my video earlier today, this is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If I could talk, I might actually be able to make money at this. Self-fulfilling prophecy. And what I mean by that is that all of these outlets, whether they're YouTube people like me or mainstream media where people are actually watching, they have all been saying that the price of Bitcoin is going to go up as we get into the halving. And that's exactly what we've seen over the last, 6 or 8 weeks, is that the price of Bitcoin, after the drop, and Chris Dunn, I watch him quite a bit. He was talking about when you see a drop certainly in Bitcoin of 30% within 2 to 3 days, that this is a really good buying opportunity. And I have to agree. If Bitcoin drops significantly, within 3 days, and that's we actually saw it within 3 weeks, but this giant candle here all happened on one day basically. He says it's a good buying opportunity, and I have to agree because I think most people who are into crypto, who are into Bitcoin, are very bullish as far as we all see this as a money-making proposition. We either like the technology behind Bitcoin and other cryptos, and we see a value prospect. This coin is somehow creating value, and we expect others will see that value at some point. And so we buy in with the idea that this is going to go up. And when it drops like this, significantly like this, it's just a dip. It's a buying opportunity. And I think most people who are in this space see it as such. So to see it go up as high as it did, and like I said earlier, it was 151% from the very bottom up to the top, just over $10,000. That's an incredible gain if you bought it all the way down to the bottom. Of course, nobody ever buys it right at the bottom. We can buy it near the bottom. Nobody ever gets out right at the top. We can get out near the top. Let me fix my chair so I don't lean back, and we can have fun. But so when I say it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, what I'm saying is that all of these outlets are saying Bitcoin's going to go up going into the halving, and then, as always, it goes out. It drops after the halving. Well, I don't know that that's necessarily true. Let me see here. I'm going to pull up. I didn't actually pull this up earlier, but I'm going to now. Go into here, and I'm going to go into my charts here because I want to show you I got to find it here. Looking for, there it is, stock to flow. Stock to flow will show us, and this may or may not be the one I'm looking for. This is not the one I was looking for, but we'll see. We'll see what I can do with it. So we've got the first one. That's 2012. Let's just home in on this one. So here is the first halving. And move the cursor out of the way. What you see here is that it goes up to the halving, and then at the halving, it's mostly flat. It goes up a little bit, but it's mostly flat. Okay, well that doesn't necessarily, as the cars outside go past, it doesn't necessarily go down. Now this last one, which is right here, so if we look at it, it started up, and the halving happens right here. There's so many flags on here, you really can't see what's going on. I see that as a problem. But it started up way up high going into the halving, and then before it got to the halving, it dropped, and then after the halving, it dropped some more. Okay, fine. But if you look at the chart, you ignore the fact that the halving happened here. Really, again, this is all going sideways. Yeah, it dropped a little bit from here down to here, but really a lot of this is sideways action. So this whole idea that Bitcoin is going to drop in value after the halving happens, I think it's more mythical than actual. And so yeah, I don't see any drop in price that we might see. I think it is a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think it's something that we create ourselves. We hype it up. This is the Bitcoin hyping more than the Bitcoin halving. And so we're, I hate to say it, but we're doing it to ourselves. Still, no matter what happens, if we are in this for the long haul, and I am certainly in this for the long haul, I'm looking at this going up, and over the next year and a half, a little more than a year and a half, I'm looking at this going up by a whole lot, a huge amount. Everybody in this space, certainly those who are on YouTube, are talking about $100,000 Bitcoin. Yeah, absolutely. And I showed in a video, I don't know, a month or so ago, my calculations on what I think Bitcoin is going to go up to. And, we were talking about earlier, I don't even have any clue how to pronounce your name. 6CZR1. We were talking about the people want to hear moon talk. Well, absolutely, I understand that. They want to get hyped up. They want to know, they want to hear people talk about how high Bitcoin and other cryptos are going to go. And I've got several altcoins that I think are going to pop. I think that they're going to do very well. Among them is Chainlink. Chainlink is already doing very well, but I also think Cardano, ADA, is going to go and do very well in this present bull cycle that we find ourselves, crypto bull cycle that we find ourselves in. And Bitcoin itself. So one of the things I looked at, first of all, I did some basic math, and what I did was I took the different runs that, this is what, the fourth, this is the fourth bull run Bitcoin has had. So I took and said, okay, how high up from bottom to top of each run, how many times was that in each? of the previous three. Took that number and those three numbers and I averaged them together, and I got an average of 80 times. Let me just double check something here. I'm going to pull up my numbers here so I can look at it. And it's going to be off camera. You won't be able to see it, but that's okay. I'm just looking to see what I've got because I want to make sure I'm looking at this correctly. That looks like the right one. So, yeah. So average gain of 80.45879,167. Have to be precise here. So the first gain that I saw, first jump up was only 32. It went from basically, instead of starting at $0.00, I started at $1. But it went, the high was $32. So that was up by 32 times. Well, the second one went from $2 to $200. Okay, that was a gain of 130 times. And the third one went from $40 to $1,149.14, which was a gain of 28.7285 times. So I averaged those three numbers together, and I get 80.45879,167. So I said, okay, knowing that the bottom of the market, the bottom of the bear market last time was $3,200. What's 80.45879,167 times that? And I came up with $257,468.13. Okay, that means that assuming, and we're assuming, and as I point out, none of this is investment advice, none of this is advice of any type, but as I pointed out, if Bitcoin does just the average run up, the average bull market, then it would go up to $257,000. Yeah, you bring up a good point. The returns are diminishing, and that's correct. They are. If you look at, let's see here. Let's see if we can pull this up, and we can go. I'm gonna see if I can pull this up a little bit. There we go. I don't know if this is gonna work, but yeah, you're right. Actually, what I need is, I know what I need. Let's do it this way. We'll go through the rainbow chart. That'll be the easiest way to do it. So, and I've got that. Rainbow chart. There it is right there. We'll load this up and let's see here. Yeah, I got to figure out which one it is. It's going to be one of these. There it is. You're right. The returns are diminishing somewhat. From here to here is larger than from, well, actually, I should say from here to here is larger than from here to here, which is larger than from here to here. And you're right, we see this diminishing return. That's why I wanted to do an average return. I wanted to get an idea of what that return might end up being. And so when I look at it and I say, okay, of these three jumps, let me go ahead and reset there we go. As I go through and I look at the charts and I start to look at what I'm seeing here, there we go. If Bitcoin just goes up the average of the last three returns, which is going to be less than the largest, but more than the least. It's an average. We're looking at a $257,000 Bitcoin. Okay, I think that is actually within the realm of possibility, because if we look, $200,000 is this line right here. Okay, which is kind of hard to follow, but it's up here into the orange band, and we look at, let's see, I'm looking at 2021, so it's going to be these two red bands here is where it would come up to. That would actually be a smaller return than from here to here. From here to roughly here would be a smaller return. So I think it is well within the realm of possibility. But the other thing I look at and realized not that long ago was that when I started looking and watching Bitcoin videos, people on YouTube talking about Bitcoin back in early to mid 2016, and because I'd spent 2015, 2016 researching. I come from the financial world. I expect to learn as much as I possibly can about any given market before I go into it. If I don't know anything about the market, how can I make a rational and informed decision? This is one of the problems I see with Bitcoin is people come into this market without knowing anything about it because everybody's making money. This is the same thing we saw back in the late 90s with the dot-com bubble. You'll see it, and you're going to see it over the next year and a half. You will absolutely see people going in and saying, hey, I'm seeing my friends, my neighbors, and my family all making money at this thing, and they're saying, I don't want to do it, it's risky, I don't want to do it, and they keep saying it, and they keep hearing all their friends and family saying, I'm making a fortune, you got to get in, and eventually they do get in. Of course, they wait so long that they get in at the very end, and they end up buying the top. Okay, and we see that in every market, and it's because they don't know anything about the market they're getting into. So I spent almost a year researching Bitcoin before I ever bought. This is the way I think things should be done. Let's see here. After the first halving, you got a 92x. Then second halving was 29x. Third halving 9 to 10x. So maybe 85k would be top. Okay, that's a possibility, but let me finish my thought here. Okay, the last time we did, and again, these are just patterns that I see, and you'll notice that all of this technical, all technical analysis is basically just a guess based on what we've seen in the past. Okay, every bit of it is a guess. One of the things I saw back in 2017 was that people were talking about a $5,000 Bitcoin. This is back when it was below $1,000. It was I don't know, $500-$600, and they're saying, yeah, I think a $5,000 Bitcoin is the highest it's ever going to be. I think Tone Vase was talking about a $5,000 Bitcoin. And most everybody was agreeing with him. Yeah, $5,000 is going to be the top. And of course, when it went through $5,000, everybody was just amazed. And it turned out that it was actually a $20,000 Bitcoin by the time it hit the top. Well, that's 4 times what everybody was talking about. 4 times what everybody assumed that price would be. Okay, if everybody's talking about a $100,000 Bitcoin at this point, what's 4 times that? Well, that's $400,000. So I'm looking at the potential. I'm not saying it's going to. I'm looking at the potential of seeing a Bitcoin well over $100,000. I think it's going to be between $200,000 and $400,000 before this is all done. And the reason I say that is because I have been through this hype. I have seen this hype cycle before. I watched in November of 2017, I actually didn't buy into my first Bitcoin, and it wasn't a full Bitcoin at the time. I bought my first Bitcoin November of 2017. So the parabolic run had already started. We were already in a bubble, and I understood that. Price was at $7,100 at the time. Okay, and we're just above that now. It's amazing how close we are to that price that I originally bought in over 2 years ago, and we're still down at within $1,200 of that price I originally bought into 2.5 years ago. That's incredible. That's a really good illustration of the volatility of Bitcoin, specifically Bitcoin, but all cryptos in general. Let's see here. You think the wild card here is if the dollar collapses due to this wild printing. That was also something I wanted to get into because you're right. I absolutely. So why do I believe $257,000 to $400,000 Bitcoin? Well, because just one of the reasons, is because of all of this money printing that the Fed is doing. And it's not just the Fed; it's every central bank in the civilized world, in the Western world. There, somewhere, we got this. I say we. The people in charge got this wild ass idea that to fix any problem, all you have to do is throw enough money at it. Well, up until certainly the 90s, early 2000s, that was, in America anyway, that was the Democrats' way of fixing every problem. Just throw money at it. And the Republicans at that time tended to be much more fiscally reserved, fiscally conservative. I mean, that was part of their whole conservative idea, was they didn't want to throw money at things. If you're going to spend money, make sure you're spending it on something worthwhile. Well, that all changed in the last 20 years. They'll throw as much money at a problem as the Democrats. So neither of those parties is fiscally responsible in any way. Do I stack silver or gold? So, and I think I've told this before. I spent 30 years working in the financial industry, and so I learned a lot about markets. And I worked for a brokerage that the owner was diagnosed with blood cancer of some sort, and his kids did not want to take over the company. It was a single owner. It was not big enough that it was publicly traded. It was a founder owner situation, and so he sold to a much larger company that is publicly traded. And when he did that, they came back and said, "Well, we appreciate buying the company. We want your customers and we want your branches, but though everybody who's working here, you're going to be out of a job." And so they fired all of us. Fortunately, the previous owner, in his sales deal, made it very clear that he wanted everyone to be taken care of. And so we all got a pretty good severance based on our years of service. And so I ended up with, that final year, between bonuses and severance and everything else, I made 3 times my base salary. And so I was able to live off of my severance for well over a year. And when I got the severance, one of the first things I did was I took $5,000 and bought gold. And it turned out to be 4 coins. Well, as the severance ran out, I still needed to live, so I ended up selling those gold coins. And I did make a profit. I did sell them for more than I bought them for. So then, again, I'm always one to look for opportunity. I see opportunity everywhere. And this is something that I find frustrating. Most people, 90%, 95% of people they have this belief that, I guess they believe in fate or something. Everything is predestined, because they seem to think that they can't change anything. And so they never look for any opportunities to change what they've got. I always look for opportunities. So again, I'm watching Chris Dunn talking about him and his 2 buddies. I don't know, they're all out in California, but they were the lady, Nikki, I think is her name. She's a financial planner and certified financial planner, and she was saying that. And again, she's saying this is not financial advice. I'm just telling you what I know. And she was saying that due to this whole beer virus, as I can't say it on YouTube, and we're on YouTube. Due to this, the beer virus and the financial problems that it is creating, the IRS and the government have decided not to penalize anyone who pulls their 401k out. They're going to tax you on it, but they're not going to say, if you're under the age of 59 and a half, which is the minimum age you can take that money out without penalty, they're not going to penalize you. I'm looking at it going, fantastic, let me see what I got. I went down, logged on for, again, everything had moved to this new company after they had been sold to. I hadn't looked at my 401k in I don't know how long, because I worked for the other for the company that bought for well over a year And so, they kept stacking, they kept putting money in, because I had my contribution into my 401k. They kept putting money into it. And when I finally did log on, I realized I had a whole bunch more money in there than I thought I did. So I pulled that out, and because, okay. In fact, when I pulled it out, they said, well, we're going to pull back. We're going to hold 20%, and we're going to use that to pay taxes. And I said, fine, great. So I got 80% of what was in there, and it was a significant sum, a year's salary or so. And I took it was just under $4,000, and I bought 200 ounces of silver with it. And the reason I did that was I also watched Mike Maloney at Gold Silver, and in fact, that's where I bought the silver. And one of the things he talks about is the gold-silver ratio. And let's see here. If I go to goldsilver.com, because I have no problem promoting his site. See if we can find the... Okay, yeah, right there. So gold-silver ratio is 110 to 1. Well, what that means is that it takes 110 ounces of silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. And normally, that gold-to-silver ratio is closer to 10 or 20 to 1. So if it drops, and it should at some point, drop down to 10 or 20%, my 200 ounces of silver could buy me up to 20 ounces of gold. And by that point, I expect the price of gold to be well over $1,600 or $1,700. I expect it to be closer to 5 figures at that point. And so, yeah, I absolutely took some of that money and spent it on silver. And, I'm letting him hold it in his vault because I figure it's going to be easier. The whole plan is to buy silver, wait for that gold-silver ratio to drop down to, 10 or 20 to 1, and color it up. I don't know if any of you gamble, but when you go to Vegas, you got a bunch of chips. You tell them, you get done gambling at a particular table. You hand them the chips. You say, "Can you color me up?" And they'll take a bunch of ones, fives, tens, 25s, and they'll make it into hundreds or whatever. So you color them up to compress the number of chips you got. Well, I plan to color up from silver to gold at some point. So yes, I am stacking silver at this point. I've also got some silver here in a safe at the house. And since none of you know where I live outside of them, somewhere in Colorado, I'm not too worried about saying that. And so, yeah, I do. Again, it's not, Bitcoin, from my point of view, Bitcoin is the fastest way to see to make my money work for me. Okay, I'm trying to avoid the language of make money, because that's not really what it's about. It's about making my money work for me. If you put your money in a bank, certainly now, it's just going to sit there because the bank isn't going to pay you anything. But if you put it into an investment and that investment increases in value, it's working for you. It's an asset. It's not a liability. Money in a bank at this point is a liability. It's not making you any money. And so, Bitcoin and crypto at this point in time is absolutely the fastest way I know to make my money work for me, and work for me the hardest it possibly can. But my brother and I have this mantra: multiple streams of income. I absolutely understand precious metals are absolutely one of those. They've been around. Mike Maloney talks about, it's got a 5,000 year history. Well, okay, 5,000 years of recorded history. Gold and silver have been used since the first person got enough of a brain to recognize that today is different from yesterday and tomorrow is different from today. Why? Because it's pretty, and somebody will want it. It's pretty. It has value. Let's see. Do you have to prove that you were affected by the beer virus to get the... No. Okay, so the question is, do you have to prove that you were affected by the beer virus to get the penalty exemption for your 401k? My understanding, and of course this is second hand to me, third hand to you, is that, and again, not not financial advice. My understanding is that when you pull it out, because of what's going on, they're simply just not going to penalize you for pulling it out. Because everybody is having problems with money at this point, and they understand that the $1,200 they're sending you isn't going to do anything for you. It's absolutely not. So, yeah, and honestly, even if they did penalize me, by the time I'd have to pay the penalty on it, because normally you have. So one of the things that this lady was talking about was that you have 3 years to pay any taxes, and you would normally have 3 years to pay any penalties. Okay, well, in 3 years, I expect that that the money that I pulled out of my 401k and put into Bitcoin is going to be worth 8 to 10 times what I put in. So if I had to pay a penalty, fine, I'm not worried about it. I will have the gains on my Bitcoin to pay it with, so I'm not too terribly worried about that at all. Again, it's about looking at and recognizing opportunities, and I see this as an opportunity, an absolute opportunity. I'm looking at this and saying, if I can pull this money out and I can turn it into 10 times or more, actually, it'll probably 10 times. Let me think about this. Do some mental math here. So 10 times would be, that would, so that's actually going to be 40 times. I'm looking at it being up to 40 times what I put in. I'd be willing to pay penalties on the money I pulled out if I make 40 times what I actually pulled out. That's just a drop in the bucket. So yeah, I'm not too terribly worried about it. But what they're saying is that because of the financial crisis that is happening at this point, they're not going to penalize you. They're just going to take the taxes because they're always going to take the taxes. Government always wants their cut. But that's the other thing. We're talking about why I think Bitcoin is going to go up in price and why I think it's going to go up as high as I think it is. And one of the big things is all of this money printing that they're doing. 2008, I was again, I'm working in the financial industry, and the banks, and I wasn't working for a bank at the time. We had a bank. We owned a bank, but I was working at a brokerage. I'm watching what's going on, and I'm thinking, God, I hope Bush lets them fail. They need to fail. If they ran their business so poorly that this is going to cause them to fail, they need to fail. That's what capitalism is about. That's what the free market is about. Is if you make a mistake, either too many mistakes or massive mistakes, your business goes down the drain, and that's what it's supposed to do. Unfortunately, President Bush, it was weird watching an interview later, and he is nervously laughing about the fact, what am I going to do? Am I going to let him fail and take the country into a depression, or am I going to save them? Well, I chose to save them. No, you don't. By doing that, what he created, he and the Fed, and the Treasury for that matter, what they created was a false bottom to that drop in the market. We never did go down to where we needed to go to create a stable foundation for the last 10 years that we've just lived through. If they had let those banks fail, one, the banks would have learned the lesson that you can't do anything and still survive. You will fail. Instead, what they learned was, well, it doesn't matter how poorly you run your business, the government's going to be there to bail you out. That's the lesson they learned. And what do you know? They're right. They're doing it now. On top of that, all the other businesses are looking around and going, hey, maybe they'll do the same for us if we run our business poorly and we need a bailout. Because they also bailed out Chrysler and Chevy. Ford didn't need a bailout at that point. They took the money because the government said you must, but they didn't need the bailout. But, okay, so it was not just the banks, it was the automotive industry also. So all these other companies are going, well, we didn't need it this time, but it's good to know that if we ever do, the government will be there to bail us out. We don't have to worry about good business practices. We don't have to worry about profits. This is the same thing. This is exactly the same things that I remember hearing people talking about back in 1998, 1999. When the dot-com bubble was at its height, one of the things, it was weird watching, it's weird watching the news today, because I remember from 20 years ago the same sorts of things being said, only then it was about the dot-com businesses. Anything that had, we saw in 2017 that if you put blockchain in a company's name, that company's stock is going to soar. Well, same thing was happening with .com back in the late 90s. Any company that had something named .com as their name, the stock just took off. And the business, the news at that point, the media was still trying to do an actual real job of journalism at the time. And so they're talking to these people, they're saying, well, this company has no profits, yet the stock is worth a fortune. How do you reconcile this? And people are saying, well, it's a new paradigm. A business doesn't have to make money in order to be valuable. What? This is that, and well, the stock market is going up and it's never coming down. It's gonna go to the moon, baby. And I remember watching this stuff, and it just seems so weird. So today, what I'm looking at is going, okay, every Friday we're seeing the jobless reports come out. Last Friday, it was 3.3 million new people on the jobless. The unemployment rate has gone up by 3.3 million people. Now, up until 5 months ago, beginning of 2020, had there been a dip in the number of jobs at all, the market would have dropped significantly. If you remember, because the last time we had jobs drop was during the Obama administration. Really, I mean, there were a couple times that they didn't make the estimates during Trump's administration that they thought they would, but it was insignificant. But during Obama's administration, they would say, well, we only made 150,000 new jobs, but they expected 235,000, and immediately the market dropped. Well, now we're losing 3.3 million jobs in a week, and the market is going up? This makes no sense. This doesn't make any sense at all. And so, okay, what's wrong with this picture? I'm looking at this and going, there's something wrong with this picture. These are the things I look at and going, okay, I need to start, this is the information I need to use in order to make my financial future better. Let's see here. What year and how did you find out about Bitcoin? So Bitcoin, I first heard about Bitcoin. Well, I think I first heard about Bitcoin in 2009, and it was just an off to the side reference where, because of the 2008 financial crisis, the cable news channels, and I don't remember which one it was, but they would report on developments of any kind. And so as soon as Satoshi published his white paper and actually Bitcoin got going, one of those cable news channels had a 30-second report on this new thing called Bitcoin, which is going to be which is claimed to be like digital cash, but better. And that's really all they said. They didn't have any real information on it. And so it was very quickly after Bitcoin had actually started that I first heard the name Bitcoin. And I thought, this is an interesting experiment. I wonder if it'll ever go anywhere. And then again, 2012, I heard some more about it. 2013, boy, I wish. So in 2013, my brother and I, because I had bought this house in 2011, moved in, 2011, 2012. I'd been here a year. My brother and I were talking about we need to do some investing. And so we both took out loans and bought gold because we're thinking, okay, gold is always I wish I had taken that money and put it into Bitcoin. I really do. I would be a multi-billionaire right now if I had. I remember thinking about it just after I had put the money into the gold and going, this is an interesting. I should have taken some of this money and put it into this new Bitcoin thing. I did not. I should have. Hindsight is always 20/20. So I had heard about it, very close to the beginning. I mean, I want to say that Bitcoin was $10 a coin when I, 2013, when I had money and could have put. The problem was, and part of the problem was, in 2013, the only way that you could store it was in a wallet. In a wallet, I looked for Windows-based wallets and couldn't find any. They were all Linux. And I didn't want to build a Linux machine just for this Bitcoin thing. I know, stupid, but who knew back then? Had I known then, had I known then what I know now, yeah, I absolutely would have built a cheap computer and put Linux on it, because Linux is a free operating system, and I would have downloaded and run whatever wallet I could find and put some Bitcoin in there. I absolutely would have done that, and I have only myself to blame, and I take responsibility for my own decisions. But yeah, I absolutely could have. But yeah, I'm with you. Bought 25 BTC in 2012 at $4 per coin. I found out about it because of an article about the Silk Road. Yeah, Silk Road on Gawker. Yeah, I don't remember hearing about Silk Road really when it happened. I remember hearing about it later. And there are always these potential opportunities. I still think I understand why Silk Road was taken down, mainly because they were selling illicit contraband, I guess is what we'll call it. Had it been more legal products. It wouldn't, of course, had it been legal products, it probably wouldn't have blown up like it did. After all, let's face it. The way you make money is to come up with an idea that no one else has tried. Well, his idea was you use this, at the time it was assumed to be anonymous, money to purchase illegal drugs that are then mailed to your house. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to know anyone. You just go online and say, I want this amount of this. Here's my Bitcoin. And then in a week or two, it shows up in your mailbox. It's a fantastic idea. If only it hadn't been illegal as far as the products. It was really, let's face it, it was no different than Amazon's model currently. I want to buy this, okay, and it gets to my house in, anywhere from 2 hours to 2 days. Fantastic idea. This is capitalism at work. This is the free market being a free market. I don't need to ask permission. I just do it, and if it's a good idea, I'll make money at it. Fantastic. But, it was, I want to say $10 a coin. Bitcoin was $10 a coin at the time, and had I even put $100 into it, I'd have 10 Bitcoin. Okay, 10 Bitcoin at $10,000. That's $100,000 right there. But I didn't. I ended up buying. I don't know. Like I said, November of 2017. I put a few $100s into Bitcoin. It was more than that. I put a few $1,000s into Bitcoin. Most of which I ended up exchanging out for other altcoins. I know that I bought in 2017. I bought coins that I still got, like Cardano, ADA. I bought that when it first came out. I bought Civic. I liked the idea of blockchain-backed identity, and my private information is owned by me. And so if I give it out, I expect something in return for it. So I absolutely backed Civic, and Civic apparently I haven't looked lately. They've talked about putting together a new wallet and putting some stuff out. You really don't hear a whole lot about them at this point, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. Based on what I saw in 2017, it won't matter how much or how little publicity any particular coin has. A rising tide raises all coins. That's what I saw in 2017. Bitcoin was going to the moon, and it was taking all the altcoins with it. Let's see here. What crypto influencers do you watch? I like Da Vinci. Yeah, I watch Da Vinci. I'm not familiar with Kevin Svensson. Bob Lucas. I absolutely watch Bob Lucas. You know, it's funny. He puts out a video every 8 or 10 weeks, and he's got, I don't know how many 100,000 followers. It's like, I put out a video every week, I get 50 followers. Like, okay, fine. I must be doing something wrong. But yeah, Bob Lucas, absolutely. He's the guy who I first started watching, who talked about this 4-year Bitcoin cycle. And it's interesting, one of the people I watch is Data Dash, Nicholas Merton. He was probably her first Bitcoin channel that I started watching. And it's weird. I'm finally at that age where I'm looking at people who are doing things like this and going, God, he's just a kid. I mean, he literally was a pimply-faced kid when I first started watching him. And I mean, I guess, technically he still is, but I mean, it was just kind of weird. It's like, but I'm watching him and I'm listening to what he's saying. It's like, yeah, this kid knows what he's talking about. And I don't mean, I'm not using the word kid derogatorily. I really do respect Nick and his knowledge, because he does know what he's talking about. I don't always agree with him, but I do respect that he does know what he's talking about. And so, he was talking about, one of the things he's been talking about lately is that this 4-year cycle has been expanding. But he's showing this chart, and I wish I had a screenshot of this chart, because I'm looking at the chart and I'm seeing how he's got this the phases all squared up, and he's looking at the end of 2022 for the end of this bull run, and I'm looking at the way he's got these phases. I'm going, yeah, except that he's got all of the bull runs, none of the bear runs, and if you put them all together correctly, the same way that Bob Lucas has, you do come up with this 4-year bull cycle. He's got it set up because he's showing the first one was 2 years, the next one was 3 years. Or was that, no, 3 years was the first one, 4 years was the last one, so this one will be 5 years. And I'm saying, yeah, but if you change things around just slightly, you end up with a bull and bear cycle that goes for 4 years. And yes, some of the bull cycles are longer than 3 years, but the preceding bear market was shorter than a full year. Okay, and so you get a larger run on one side, but a smaller one on the other, and it equals out. So as far as I can tell, we're still in that 4-year cycle, and at this point, based on that, 2018 was the 1-year bear run. 2019, 2020 are the first half are 2 more years into it. So 2021 will be the last year. It'll be the 4th year. It'll be the last year of the bull run, and so by the end of 2021, I expect to see the highs in. But I can't talk. I've been talking for an hour now. I expect the highs in Bitcoin to be in, and again, because I'm a swing trader, I'm looking at the long term. I'm going to pull out I'm going to pull my investment out as close to the top as possible, and the way I'm going to do that, since there's only 4 of you watching, I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that. So you'll notice I've got this green line here and this red line here. Let me go back a little bit and I'll show you what it does. If I go over here to, this will work. Let's do it this way. To the last bull run right here, you'll notice that they go up and they cross right here. Okay? Right there. Well, that's the top of the cycle. And if I go back, I can go back here farther. Let me see if I can find one here. See how well it works. But they cross, there we go. Yeah, this won't show it because we don't have enough history. This is Bitfinex. How far back is this? This is 2014. We should have another one here. I know that on all of these, I went back for the last 3 bull runs, and this line crossed each and every time. And so what I did, and it's a let me see if I can pull it up here. It's nothing special, really. It is, let me find it here. Where is it? It is, it's from the Look Into Bitcoin charts, okay? And it's this, it's this right here, okay? And this right here is the equation. Well, being a programmer, all I did was I went in and put that equation into created an indicator on TradingView. And one of the beautiful things about that is, let me go ahead and get this back where it was, is that because it's in TradingView, it works on anything. Oh, it's because it's on auto. It works on all of the, on all of the all the coins. So it doesn't matter what I'm looking at. I've got a bubble pop indicator for every single coin that I might want to look at. And so when those lines cross, I'll know that that coin has hit the top of its bubble. And I can pull anything that I've got money into, I can pull it out before it drops. That's the whole idea. And between all of the Bitcoin and the various altcoins that I have, I think I can make quite a bit of money off of this. And it's a pretty simple indicator. But as we go through 2021, you're going to see these two lines get closer and closer together. In fact, if you look at it back here, when we started going up so fast here in 2019, you'll see that these lines started to come closer together. It started to see a bubble, but we popped out of it before it actually became a bubble. So that's what I'm going to use to pull out as close to the top. I may not get off on the roof, but I think I can get off on the top floor, and just before the market drops. So again, it's about using tools to figure out how to keep the most of what you got, and then of course, let's assume that it's a $100,000 Bitcoin. Okay, let's assume that's the top. As the hot rod drives by the house. So we'll assume it's $100,000 Bitcoin. I pull out my several Bitcoins at $100,000. Okay, so then I let the market drop. I let Bitcoin drop. The bear market comes in and it drops 88%, which is average. Well, if it's, again, let's use my numbers from earlier. Instead of $100,000, let's say it's $257,000 because I've got numbers for this. So $257,000 Bitcoin, and I pull several Bitcoins out, and it drops down 88%. Well, that'll drop it down to $29,000, just under $30,000 a Bitcoin. How many Bitcoins can I buy with several $100,000? I can buy a whole bunch, and then let it do it again. Let it go up and peak again. How much money will I end up with? I think I can end up with millions, hundreds of millions. Keep doing it. Just rinse and repeat. This is the whole point of swing trading from my point of view. You get in near the bottom. You ride it to as high as as you're willing to take it. Hopefully just before it drops, you take your money out. You let it drop. You put your money back in and buy a whole bunch more of that asset, and you do it all over again. That's what swing trading is. Let's see here. I got wrecked by buying in alts in late 2017 and still holding. I don't consider that I'm wrecked. Let's see. I was planning on buying gold when it's time to sell. When it's time to sell Bitcoin, and that is absolutely a possibility. So I don't think I got wrecked. So we'll take ADA as an example. I bought Cardano at, I want to say, 12 cents a coin. And I bought 1,100 coins. It didn't cost me a whole lot. It was, I want to say, $150. Okay, and again, at the time I was making six figures, so $150 is nothing. I would spend that much in a night at Vegas playing craps. So, and again, if you're going to invest, I have always looked at investing in, whether it's the stock market, the crypto market, whatever, as the greatest casino on earth, because this casino doesn't have a 4% advantage like the casinos in Vegas or Atlantic City or anywhere else in the world. this is a much more even game. Great. So $150 or so is something like that. Bought me 1,100 coins. It's down at 4 cents a coin now. Let's see here. ADA USA. Yeah, 4 cents a coin. It's a third of what it was when I bought in. Did I get wrecked? Well, it's worth less than what I bought it at, but I'm still holding it. And one of the first lessons you learn about trading and working in the stock market or any other asset market is you only lose money if you sell below the price that you bought in at. As long as you're holding on to it, you haven't actually lost anything. Any losses are on paper. It always has the potential to go back up to where it was or beyond. And traditionally, historically, any asset, given enough time, has always gone up above whatever price you want, whatever its high price was. In the case of Cardano, the high price was, I think, $10. I mean, it was pretty. Oh, this doesn't go back far enough to get the high price, because that was, it only goes back to 2018. But I want to say Cardano's high price was like $10 a coin. So, I made a lot of money. I just didn't sell at the right time, which is fine. I was looking at, at that point, I didn't really have a plan. I knew that it could make me some money, and I wanted to get involved, but I also knew that it was something that was going to be around for a while, and so if I didn't have to have a plan right then and there. But, which is not, that's not the best. That's not the best way to invest. If you're going to invest, you really want to have a plan. You want to have an idea of what you're going to do and when you're going to do it. And so over the last couple of years, as the market dropped, and actually as it hit the bottom, my plan was to find out where the bottom was and buy in as close to that as possible. And actually, I was hoping that Bitcoin would drop down to $2,500 a coin. I really hoped it would. At that point, I had gotten my severance, or I was ready to get my severance. My job had gone away a couple of months earlier, and I was looking at getting my severance, and I was going to take $5,000, and I was going to invest it in Bitcoin. And I was hoping for a $2,500 Bitcoin so I could buy two. As it turned out, it never got that low, and I actually got back into it in April of 2019. I had to think about which year was it down. 2019, April 2019 is when I got into it again, and I bought at $4,900. Okay. So I got just over one Bitcoin at that point. Since then, I've been able to add to it. But I've still got that one Bitcoin in my possession, as digitally in my possession as it can be. And I'm going to ride it all the way top, and the idea is to continue. So you were planning to buy gold when it's time to sell. And that's the other thing. Gold, silver is, I don't know if there are any others, that he will accept Bitcoin. So you could absolutely trade your Bitcoin to him for gold and or silver. And the only problem I see with that is, when after Bitcoin drops, because this is, in a year or so, it's going to drop and make a bottom. How do you get that gold and or silver back into Bitcoin? That's my only concern. Why do you like ADA? I'm not a fan personally. They seem like they might never go anywhere. The reason I like ADA, a couple of reasons. One, I've met Charles Hoskinson. He actually lives, I would say up the road, but it's a little farther than up the road. He lives a little farther north from me, and I have actually met him a couple times at ETH Denver. He goes there every year. He doesn't speak, he just shows up. And he's a fascinating person to talk to, but I have been watching their presentations since the first whiteboard presentations. And what they said made a whole lot of sense. One, and this was about the time I went to the first ETH Denver, and the reason I went there, and I volunteered. I went as a volunteer because I knew that volunteers get access to places that that the regular goers don't. And I was hoping to find some people who would be able to answer a question for me. And the question I had was, and still have, is if you go with proof of stake in order to create new blocks on a blockchain, as Ethereum's planning to do, how do you keep it from becoming centralized? Because if the people who are validating blocks are those who have the most staked, they are necessarily going to be a centralized group of people. And I want to figure out how you're going to keep it from being just 4 or 5 people who have, millions of Ethereum to stake with. And no one could give me an answer. Well, Charles, with his, talks and videos, he hasn't yet told us exactly how. He's given some basic ideas, but it looks like they may have solved that problem. And if they have, that absolutely will be worth something. I think that'll be worth quite a lot. And I think you'll see the price of ADA jump up as they introduce, as Shelley goes on its mainnet, and as they introduce Byron, and they go on forward from that, because they've got this plan on exactly what they want to do and how they want to do it. The other thing I like about ADA is that everything they're doing is peer-reviewed, just like any other scientific paper would be. The scientific method is that you make an observation, you make an observation, you then come up with a theory on why that happened, you test that theory, and you then publish the results for others to then do the same experiment and see if they come up with the same thing. Peer review. If they do, you've got some pretty good evidence that what you thought was correct actually is. And so they are using peer review to determine whether or not what they believe is actually happening is actually happening. And so, yes, I absolutely I love that idea, because it means that it's not just Vitalik doing stuff. And I understand Vitalik's not the only one who's creating Ethereum, but he is certainly the face of it, and he does not do anything to dissuade people from believing he's the one doing everything. And the other thing is with Ethereum, the fact that we've got Ethereum and Ethereum Classic, and if you're familiar with that whole story, you understand that Ethereum is a very centralized crypto. Granted, it's not really a cryptocurrency, so it doesn't need the distribution as much as something like Dash or Bitcoin does. But if it's centralized, that means only one or a few people have total access, total control of it, and that means that they can be persuaded to do certain things by outside actors, like, say, the government. And that's a problem. I do not want the government to be. I watched last year, not 2020, 2019. So it was the second year at ETH Denver. The keynote speaker Saturday night was Andreas Antonopoulos. I actually did get to meet him and talk to him for a few minutes in the green room before he went on stage. But his talk on stage was astounding. And if I could ever find that video, I would send it to my dad, because I think he would really appreciate it. Because he talked about the fact that one of the biggest things that Bitcoin has, and any cryptocurrency needs, is the 5 pillars. He talked about the 5 pillars of crypto, but one of them was the fact that all of these other cryptocurrencies, and he put it in air quotes, they all have companies or organizations or CEOs or people who are in charge. And so the government can go to these companies or these organizations or these people and say, hey, we don't like what you're doing, and so we're going to throw you in jail for 40 years, 40 to life. Well, that's a pretty good incentive to change whatever, any way the government decides that it should be changed. Bitcoin, they can't do that. There's no one, unless they can find Satoshi, who are they going to throw in jail? So I do absolutely see that. You think I'm sure I did. Let's see here. Where's my countdown counter? Did we miss it? It says 29 minutes. Yeah, it did. See, this is the other thing that a lot of people don't seem to understand. This is why I wanted to start an hour before, supposedly an hour before the halving, is I figured that something like this was going to happen. A lot of people have a hard time understanding this. This timing, where am I pointing? There. This countdown. I have to look at my preview. Where am I pointing? This countdown is not based on a time or a date. It's based on a block. And the four of you watching, I have no doubt you guys understand exactly what's going on. But most people are looking at it going, "Why is it changing? I don't understand." Well, it's changing because it's based on a block, not on a date or a time. And so, yeah, and it's basically taking an average of 10 minutes to determine how far away we are. And I will keep you're right. I need to keep refreshing as we go, because I want it when we get there. I want to be able to do it live. I think that's really going to be a lot of fun, because again, this is the countdown to the biggest nothing that anyone will see. Everyone is so excited. It's the halving. It's the halving. This is where everything happens. This is the beginning of everything. No, it's not. I mean, really, yeah. To some extent, yes. The halving does kind of start off the whole big bull run. We've never had a really big bull run before halving. We started one this time, and we saw how far that went. But after the halving is, and yes, I do believe that the Bitcoin reward being cut in half, the fact that only half the amount of Bitcoin is being awarded per block, has a great deal to do with this run up in price, because again, it's supply and demand. The supply of new Bitcoin daily gets cut in half. So for the same amount of work, for the same amount of buying, you end up with a higher price. Imagine 4 years from now, the halving will probably be an even bigger deal. I absolutely expect it will be. And 4 years from now, I plan to be doing this just like I am now. Hopefully with not that I don't appreciate the four of you watching, but I'm hoping to have a bigger audience 4 years from now. But yeah, this is not the first time I've done live streaming. I've been doing live streaming on Twitch and Mixer, and I've done it on YouTube before as well. Not for Bitcoin, but for other things, including gaming. But which is why I started the stream early and put we'll start shortly. Those of us who've done this before, we've learned through hard lessons to test the stream before we go live. I learned how to shoot and edit video from a good friend of mine who is no longer with us. God, it's been 20 years ago now that she taught me how to shoot and edit video. And so I try and keep my production values up as best I can. I don't consider myself a professional editor. I do know a few, but I like to try and make things as professional looking as possible, because I think that if I make the production values, if I keep the production values up, I think that people who see it will expect a more, I don't know how to say this, how to put this, a more reasoned and seasoned and reasonable point of view. I think they attribute more authority to a better looking video. I don't know if that makes sense to you or not, but so that's one of the things I do to try and attract an audience. Apparently, the other thing to do to attract an audience is to put a really cool image as your thumbnail. I noticed that actually, let me take a look here. I'm going to do it up here because you can't see up here. Let me see here. I need to go to there. I'm curious. I have not. I didn't really look. I'm curious. But my video from last week had that really cool image of death, and yeah, it's actually had 46 views in the last week, which is kind of interesting. It's got 30 more than the week before, which I thought was actually a really cool thumbnail. But I'm old enough to remember Saturday Night Live and Samurai. That was actually Samurai Deli. My favorite was Samurai Optometrist. But apparently, in what you do to get views is you give a really cool picture for your thumbnail, and that is what attracts people in. That and a clickbait title. Okay, fine. I mean, really, if I look at it, my biggest video by far. Let me see if I can find it. It's back here a ways. There it is. Was the 20K Ethereum moonshot, and it's got almost 1,000 views. That's pretty good for having 50 people as who have actually decided to follow me. That's not bad at all. So yeah, oh, I'm sorry, I got 51 followers now. Yeah, I've got another one. But yeah, so okay, fine. Let's see, what song you use for your intro outro? It's funny. And I'll tell you, I had thought about putting music on for the live stream. Will start shortly. That I put up before this live stream started. The problem is every time I did that when I was streaming before, I always got a strike, a YouTube strike. Some idiot, some asshole would every time would strike my video for copyright infringement, even though I'm using royalty-free music. So I would, of course, write to I would dispute it, and in the dispute, I'd say this is royalty-free music. I own the rights to. What is the name? What I did was I created an intro and an outro, and I put it's its own video. That I just take the video and add it to the front and to the back. So I would have to look up and see what the name of that is. I don't remember what it's called. I'm sorry. But it's one of, I don't know, I've got hundreds of royalty-free music sources of all types of music. And as I do video for a bunch of stuff, I use a lot of it for creating an atmosphere. To creating an environment of what I want people to feel when they're watching that particular image, the particular images that are on screen. And so I've got a whole bunch of royalty-free music. It's not like I just found that one and that's what I use. I chose that one specifically for this. But yeah, so back to Bitcoin, which I think is what everybody wants to talk about. I am looking at this current financial situation, where we have millions of people who are out of work, and the stock market reacts by going up. That makes no sense. That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. I know that makes no sense. It's one of those weird things where when you read it in a history book, and it talks about this happened, and the reaction was this, and which made no sense at the time, but most people didn't seem to realize. And you're looking at it and reading it, going, "Yeah, that makes perfect." Why wouldn't anybody not recognize that? We're in one of those situations now where we lose 3 million jobs in a week, and the stock market goes up, and nobody seems to care or recognize that this is wrong. It's just straight up wrong. And a good part of that reason is simply because people don't understand. They are not financially literate. They're not financially aware. And that's most people. 99% of people in the world are not financially literate or aware. Just like they're not politically literate or aware. They don't pay attention. If it doesn't directly affect them, they don't care. And then they wonder why they never have any money and why their country does the things that it does. Well, if you would pay attention and see things as they come, before they come, you could make your life and the life of people around you much better. No one does, and therefore they don't. It really is that simple. I look at this and I say, hey, what do I want to do? Where do I want to be in 5 years? Less than 5 years. Where do I want to be? Well, I would like to be retired. Okay? Because I had that severance from my last job, I was able to live the retired life for about a year. That's what I've been calling it. I was living the retired life. And I enjoyed it. I really liked it. Get up whenever I want, do whatever I want. I did that for over a year, and not once was I ever bored. I always had things to do. I wrote most of a book. I don't know if I'll actually ever get it published or not. I am a published author. I wrote a book on a completely different topic, and at this point, it's probably past the point. It was a book on politics, and due to the financial situation we find ourselves in, most of what that book is about is no longer applies, because it was about the politically correct left and the cancel culture. And now that we've encountered an actual emergency, an actual issue, that's all gone away, because that was simply first world problems that they were complaining about. This is not first world. This is global. And so we see that it just, their problems, their issues just crumple and disappear. So, okay, fine. But I had lots of things that I did that kept me busy. I was not bored at all. And so I'm looking forward to doing that again. Unfortunately, because of this financial situation, I find myself going out, and I am having to find myself a job, because it was, the thought was that, and I've been basically, as long as I have a job, any job, whatever the economy does, I can pay my basic bills. That's really what it comes down to. And whether it's a recession or a depression, if I don't have a job, I get into trouble. That's really what it comes down to. And that's what people are going to find, is that if they don't have a job, they're going to find themselves in trouble. So I went out and, I was a DevOps manager in my previous life. And I continue to try and find jobs like that. Although DevOps managers have not been in demand over the last couple of years. I did apply for a couple of VP and director positions. But I find myself at this point in my life working for minimum wage at Walmart. And okay, I can do that for a couple of years, because in a couple of years, I think, based on the investments that I've made, a lot of it in Bitcoin, some of it in silver, and other investments that I have, some stock. Well, actually, I'm out of the stocks right now, but I'm looking at going back into stocks after the crash finishes, when it bottoms out. I think I will have the monetary resources to retire within the next couple of years. Certainly, Bitcoin, I think, is going to be the major factor in that. And so, yeah, I can work a minimum wage job at Walmart for a couple of years while these investments mature to the point where they can support me for the rest of my life. I have no problem. Robert Kiyosaki, I don't know if you watch him or not, but he says a lot of things that I have to agree with, one of which is, poor people work for a paycheck, rich people work for assets. And so I'm not working for a paycheck. Yeah, they give me a paycheck every 2 weeks, but really what it comes down to is I use as much of that money as I can to buy more assets, whether it's Bitcoin, silver, gold, or whatever, because the asset is going to pay me on a regular basis. It's going to pay me money. And, as long as I can take care of my basic bills, I'm fine. And so I am working towards that retired life, that life of ease of retirement, where I've got plenty of money. Yeah, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Yeah, Robert Kiyosaki. And, like I said, I don't agree with everything he says, but I find myself agreeing with probably 99% of what he says. He makes a lot of sense, to put it that way. And what I find is that the people who are currently interested in crypto, Bitcoin specifically, but crypto in general, tend to be people who are of a similar mindset. If you're in crypto now, we're still at that bottom part where nobody believes in it. It's lost all of its value. Why would I buy some? It was worth $20,000 and now it's only worth $9,000. Why would I buy it? It's worthless. And this is the way most people look at investments. They never look at it and say, it's on sale for half price, more than half price. I could buy twice as much as I could before. I should maybe buy that. Nobody ever does that. That's why they call it contrarian investing. We're buying it when nobody else wants it, and therefore we buy it on sale. Watch, as soon as it reaches 20,000, or just as it comes up to 20,000, so I expect my mind jumps around a lot, so I'm not finishing sentences. I expect that. Now, at around $10,000, there's going to be a whole lot of publicity on your favorite cable news channel. Bitcoin's at $10,000, or Bitcoin dropped from $10,000 too. There'll be a lot of that too. Then after it gets above $10,000, you'll be hearing about Bitcoin going above $10,000, and they'll have a big to do about it. But it's when it hits $20,000, as it comes up to $20,000, they're going to do more and more. It'll be weekly at first, then it'll be once a day, once every couple of days, then it'll be once a day, and then it'll be several times a day as it gets to $20,000 of Bitcoin, where they're going to be talking about the price. This is the price of Bitcoin, and it's gotten back up to where, and that's going to bring in a whole new group of people who've never heard of or had heard about this thing called Bitcoin but didn't know anything about it. But now that the news is talking about it, I should investigate. Maybe I should invest. I don't know anything about it, but maybe I should invest, because again, that's the way most people do their investing. It's worth something. It's going up in price. I should buy. Don't know anything about it. Don't know anything about the 4-year cycle. Don't know any. I just know that it's going up. Haven't really heard about it before, but it's going up, so I need to get into it and write it up, and it's going to make me a millionaire. And so yeah, as the price goes up to all-time highs, and I expect $20,000. I'm going to say around the end of the year, probably after the end of the year, but yeah. That's about the time I expect to see $20,000 Bitcoin. And after we get to the $20,000 Bitcoin, you're going to see that, we're on the roller coaster ride now. We see the price going up and down. Let's bring. Oh, I said I'm not in the right one. We see the roller coaster ride now. Okay, and will you stop that? It always goes on auto, and so it goes up and it goes down, and it's always kind of scary. And we'll refresh this real quick. 1147, huh? And so it's a kind of a scary ride. Well, after it hits all-time highs, after it gets up to $20,000, we're going to see a lot less down, a lot more up. And that's when it's going to be that FOMO. Everybody's going to be fear of missing out. Wow, it already happened. We missed it. Oh, man. How's that for? I love it. And do I like margin trading? No, only a fool margin trades. Yeah. Margin trading is for fools because you are using leverage, and yes, you can make a whole lot more money that way, but you're more likely to lose all of your money margin. That's what happened in 29. That's why people were jumping off of buildings when the market crashed. They knew that they could never pay back the debts that they made because they were buying on margin. So we have 1,458 days before the next halving. I will see you in 1,458 days. Like I said, let's see what happened. What happened to the price? The prices? Oh man, we're at 85.49. Well, the price didn't drop dramatically. Let's look at the daily. we might as well look at the daily. Yeah, daily's not that bad. I mean, we dropped more yesterday. Again, this is what I expected. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Yeah, okay, I'll go with that. Happy New. Rewarding. I don't know. Yeah, New Year. Yeah, happy New leap year. I mean, it happens every leap year, right? Every 4 years, roughly. Wow. But yeah. This is it is what it is. It's not going to be a massive change. Now, over the next few days, over the next week, we'll see what happens to the price. I fully expect that it will drop around. If it drops to around $7,000, I won't be too terribly surprised. And again, I look at it as a buying opportunity. I can get more Bitcoin for my money than I could 4 days ago. Back when it was at $10,000 a coin. Now if it's at $7,000 a coin, I can get 30% more. Fantastic! This is a deal. That's the way the smart trader looks at it. But so we have gone through. we have made it to the halving. I have to say I love that image. That's a fantastic image. The Lamborghini. We're gonna Lambo time. We've mooned. That's funny. What is this thing up here in the red? Bitcoin in a car. Is that Bitcoin and Friends? It kind of looks like him. But yeah. This is the most least significant thing that you will probably ever do for the next 4 years. Is we have gone through the Bitcoin halving, and now everybody who's mining is making only 6.25 Bitcoin. Is that right? 6.25 Bitcoin. Yep. 6.25. So we are down at this point. We are down to a inflation rate that is around the same inflation as gold. Certainly we're way less than the inflation rate of the dollar or any other fiat currency. So we are a better store of value, better store of value than just about anything. And it's going to be interesting. The next year and a half it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be quite the ride. So you should buckle in and be ready for just about anything. Anyway, I just wanted to come on and have some fun with whoever happened to be watching. You're welcome for the live stream. I'm glad you guys joined me. I was happy to see more than myself here. It was nice to have someone to talk to. It's nothing more. What's the word I'm looking for? Saddening than doing a live stream for yourself. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for talking to me, asking questions, making comments. It was a lot of fun. I may be doing more of these. I knew I had to do a live stream for the halving because. I may be doing more of them. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens when we get closer to $20,000. Depending where I'm at and what's going on, I may be able to do a live stream and see if we can't do a live stream for $20,000 coming back to all-time highs. But I expect that'll be months from now if it happens. But I had a good time, and hopefully you guys did too. We've been here for a little over an hour. Let's see, almost 2 hours, an hour and 46 minutes. It's pretty good for coming on an hour before the halving was supposed to happen. But you guys have a wonderful day, have a wonderful night, and remember, verify, don't trust.